everything was fine except for Jeff. Like Jeff, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then on the 30th day, they shut down our super big customer getting page or our patient getting page. So our
Shift gears a little bit here and talk about something that's probably a kind of a timely thing. The old Facebook ban city that's going on right
yeah,
now is
yeah,
it seems like I went through this years ago where like Google and SEO, where like Google and SEO just got so fucking crazy. Like you couldn't depend on them to be the same 2 weeks in a row.
yep,
And Facebook's a little bit like that. So I'm like personally on my sixth account. So I like to get a little congratulation
yeah. Good job,
achievement.
me. Figured it
I
out.
got my
Beat the
mother's
system.
account, my sister's account, and my
Yeah.
own, and I'm working through them all. I actually had a guy at Facebook look into it, and he's like, "Ooh, we have an internal ranking system, 1 to 4, 4 being like a good trusted advertiser, and you're a 1, and we would never ever run ads for you again." I'm like, "Well, that's good to know." Um,
Thank
so
you.
so I wanted to hear kind of your thoughts on both what you're doing in the short term to kind of deal with this,
Yeah.
and more importantly, actually, love to hear your thoughts about kind of like how you see diversifying it or other lead platforms, or just what you're
Yeah.
doing about it long term, so that you don't have all the eggs in the Zuckerberg basket.
I remember my operations professor talking about Caterpillar would never let a single supplier own more than 30% of the dollar. So if they had like this $10 million budget to buy wheels or tractors or trailers or whatever, every supplier for there could only get 30% of the budget. It forced diversification because they knew one of those guys was going to mess up and they can temporarily move the dollars or buy extra from the other guy. Everything was cool. And I've been running my business without that. I've been saying 100% of my dollars are based upon Facebook, which was cool ish up until like 2 months ago, where I'm in Paraguay doing my Facebook stuff and everything is fine. I come back and I land. The first thing I open up is like, hey, we've disabled your advertising access. I go, not my first fucking rodeo, Facebook. Okay, fine. So I click like appeal. 2 days later, fine, nothing. 2 days later, again. I'm like, all right, at this point, like a bunch of clients can be asking questions why I can't log into their ad accounts. Like this kind of sucks.
Yeah, not to mention
So I
usually at
open
that point, between your own shit and clients, you've given the company like millions of dollars, and they've given you no warning, like, hey, you're just instantly banned, and we can't tell you what you did.
right. It would be nice if they're like, hey man, one more try, please stop. They're like, nah, you just fuck off. That's what happens, right? So I open up Slack and I talk to my admin, who's the backup for all these accounts. And I go, hey, Gene, you and I are going to be best friends for the next 30 days. And she goes, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm going to be logging in at night and sending you Loom videos. And you're going to follow them and go into the ad accounts and then adjust them. And I'll check in the morning. And she's in the Philippines, so she's working the night. So every night she got like 20 Loom videos. And she's like, this sucks. I was like, it does. It's going to be that way for a while. Remember how I overpaid you? Didn't ask questions. Let's go. And she's like, okay. So I learned how to do everything in 5 minute fucking Loom videos because I was not about to buy like another upgrade or another subscription, right? So they're all 5 minute less tutorials and to go in and change stuff. And I could open up my ads manager. I could make the edits, but I couldn't publish. So I would go and I would do it live, click this, click that, and I would send it to her, and she'd have 10 things. And when I wake up, they'd be done. So it was like it was okay, but I did feel like I was operating like handicapped or like somewhat blind because if I wanted to go and have this impulse of like changing a thing, tough, can't do it. Gotta wait for Gene. I was like, this really sucks, but it was doable. 30 days after my advertising access was removed or disabled, by the way, the ads were still running. That was okay. And all the pages were running. That was okay. So like everything was fine except for Jeff. Like Jeff, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then on the 30th day, they shut down our super big customer getting page or our patient getting page. So our way of working was we're just use the same page for everybody. A, to build a brand, which is cool, but more importantly, B, I don't want to have to request access to that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. It's all into the same page. It's fine. So they disabled that. I was like, that's not good. So we made a new one and it worked for a week. And then they disabled that one. I was like, all right, punch me straight in the dick, man. Like Facebook is trying to say, get out. This sucks. And you've never realized how difficult business.facebook is and the business settings are when you try to navigate without actually having access. So imagine one screen over
Good
here
story,
and
by the
then,
way.
the VA screen over here, and then the page is disabled, but the ad accounts are active. And you're like, where the fuck is this ad running? How is it billing if there's no page? like all that weird buggy stuff was happening. And go, all right, I think I'm done here. I've heard it loud and clear. I need a different solution. That's why I remembered what my professor said is like you always have 3 suppliers. Yes, it's 90%, but you can play with the numbers, right? So I was like, okay, time to open up AdWords and figure this sucker out. And I gave myself permission to not do it perfectly, which I think is super important for people operating under a stress scenario. I gave myself permission to do it 20, 30, 40, 50 times and to do it wrong. I think that's what people like forget is like you're supposed to do it wrong. It's like homework. Fuck this up, look up the answer, all that stuff.
And
So
not
I
just
opened
that,
up.
I'd say like personally getting an attachment to how ads perform. So when they go well, I'm awesome, and when they don't, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, like you end up with this type of experience.
Yeah.
So I open up ads.google, open AdWords. I have no idea what the brackets mean, what the quotes mean. I can't find the keyword thing, and then it's a landing page or a lead form. It was like a whole shit show, but I was like, that's cool, man. I'm gonna go as far as I can. So I did 30, 40 minutes. I said, okay, I can feel the frustration because it's not exactly like Facebook. So I'm gonna take a walk and come back in a bit. And then I took a walk and back in a bit. And after the 15th iteration, now I know exactly which keywords perform for our 4 or 5 dentists immediately. I did that. I was reading about it, going on YouTube, doing the education thing, figuring it all out. But what I found is most of the tutorials were like way too long when I was like, I just need 2 or 3 pieces of information, which is unique because I was doing it while I was educating myself. Most people like they go through the 12 hours and then they try to do it and they get angry and they go back to tutorials. I was like, no, man, I know how to do all this. I'm just looking for the answers. So we started up and running. I paid for the ads myself in the beginning. And I probably spent like $200-300 my own money. And then we got 4 or 5 leads out of it. And I was like, oh, Google does work. And they respond to the text message, did a live transfer. Like, oh, this is fucking cool. That's pretty awesome. And we still put the price in the ad. And for our dentists, we're advertising like a $15,000 price point. And what I've realized with AdWords and Google and just like Facebook and just like my life is like, if shit gets complicated, your goal is not to do better or do more work. Your advantage is making it simple. So when I go into AdWords now, there's only 5 or 6 or 7 keywords that I think about. That's it. And the cool thing about AdWords is it will tell you which your worst keywords are. So you're always getting this like positive feedback of adjustment and stuff like that. I ended up hiring a fellow to do the media buying, and he has access to all the AdWords stuff and the Facebook ad stuff. So we can do some changing fixes, stuff like that. So it feels, now the business feels a lot less like I'm pushing a boulder, more like I'm pushing a boat. Like a boat will move. You just got a rudder. Yeah. A boulder, you got to push and always goes in the wrong fucking direction. Like it always goes to the left. So the learning for me with Facebook over the past 30 days is you can get shut down for any reason at all, whether you think you're doing it right or wrong. No.
Yeah, I can just confirm you can read the policy like 45 times and still not know what you did.
Yeah. It's like, hey, yeah, you circumvented systems. No, I didn't. I just clearly didn't. Like 100% beyond a shot, I did not. And they're like, you did it. And like, thank you. That's very, very helpful.
Yeah.
So so that's number 1. Number 2 is having a single source supplier is your fault. And I had to own that. And so like, all right, I've been a single source supplier for like 6 years. So I'm just buying everything from Facebook. So now I've got Facebook, I've got YouTube, which we're still figuring out, not great at it. I've got AdWords, which we're like 80% competent in, and we're starting doing TikTok. So what Facebook has done is even if they turn everything back on, everything's fine. Now I have 4 options. It's like we took a break and I was like, well, I'm dating somebody else now. So I don't think Facebook is going to make they're going to take a loss this quarter because it's not just me.